Is this the world created by your almighty and merciful God? One atheist says, shouldn't he at least save you from the hunger, poverty, and killing you are experiencing? Aren't the images of children being exterminated by the crimes of the occupying entity enough to move him? Does he not hear the cries of orphans and the weeping of widows and bereaved women? Why doesn't he intervene? Why didn't he create a more merciful world? Why did God allow the existence of evil? The problem of evil is considered one of the most significant atheistic objections in the debate between believers and atheists, to the extent that the American philosopher Ronald Nash said that objections to belief in God appear and disappear. But all the philosophers I know believe that the most serious challenge to belief in God, both in the past and exists in the present, and will remain in the future, is the problem of evil. There is no doubt that what is happening today in Gaza, these horrific massacres, may raise such questions in the minds of some Muslims. So it is our duty to shed light on this important and serious topic so that we do not fall prey to doubts and misgivings. In his analysis of atheistic thought, Dr. Sami Amiri, in his book The Problem of Evil and the Existence of God, sees that evil is not, in people's reality, a tangible substance or an entity that can be embodied, but rather it is the result of an action or a certain state, since absolute evil does not exist, and therefore it is something relative or partial. More precisely, we should consider evil as a quality, not an entity. And it is nothing but a manifestation of corruption in something whose original state was soundness. Just as darkness is the absence of light, there is nothing that is dark by its own nature, so too evil is the absence of good. And there is nothing in the universe that can be considered evil in and of itself. Therefore, it is not correct to attribute evil to God. Rather, it is a characteristic of His creations. However, someone might object here by saying that even if God did not create evil, He still allowed it to exist. Nothing can happen in His dominion against His will. He allowed the killer to kill, and the thief to steal, and He allowed the knife to cut, and the fire to burn. So how can we reconcile God's knowledge, power, and justice with His allowing the existence of evil in His creation? Dr. Sami Amiri responds to this by saying that reconciling God's perfection with His allowing evil to exist is easy if we begin by acknowledging that God does nothing except with wisdom, so His actions never depart from wisdom, benefit, kindness, mercy, justice, and correctness. To clarify the wisdom behind the existence of evil, Sami Amiri distinguishes between three types of evil. First, there is moral evil, which refers to wrongful acts committed by humans of their own free will, such as lying, stealing, and killing. And these are the result of people's actions driven by their corrupt will, which goes against the sound nature that God has instilled in them, which makes this type of evil a logical price for the blessing of free will. God's wisdom willed that people should both do right and wrong according to their intentions and the righteousness of their hearts and actions, not to be forcibly driven every time to make the right choice. So if God were to intervene to prevent people from doing evil, then their good deeds would become mechanical rather than voluntary. And if humans lost their free will, then reward and punishment in the hereafter would have no meaning. And as one philosopher says, only when we are exposed to the possibility of defeat do we truly deserve the reward of victory. Some might say that the argument of free will logically justifies God's allowance of moral evil, but it falls short when it comes to the second type of evil, which is physical evil, or as it is also known, natural evil, which is the main point relied upon by atheistic rhetoric to deny the existence of a creator, claiming that natural disasters are proof of the absence of mercy and justice in the universe. So what is the wisdom that justifies the existence of this evil? First, Dr. Sami Amiri explains that evil and good are two sides of the same coin, and one cannot exist without the other, for each completes the other and is a necessary condition for its realization. And with the existence of one, the other is fulfilled. Without one, the other vanishes. Justice lacks meaning without its shadow, as does forgiveness without offense, or courage without fear, for things are known by their opposites. And we would not feel pleasure on this earth or savor the sweetness of enjoyment until we have tasted bitterness and tears of regret have run down our cheeks. Sami Amiri also considers that a soul surrendered to the comforts of luxury and the delights of blessings cannot be concerned with matters of the afterlife, fate, or reckoning because it is a complacent and withered soul. That is why illness, hardship, and the loss of wealth and fruits come to remind us of the blessing of well-being and its value, and that we were not created for this fleeting good. And as C.S. Lewis says, God whispers to us in our pleasures and speaks in our conscience, but He shouts in our faces. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Another wisdom behind the existence of natural evil is that it helps bring out the hidden virtues within people. For deep within our human souls lie bundles of virtues that radiate beauty and fulfill the perfection of our human nature. And often these virtues remain hidden beneath the veil of comfort until earthquakes and disasters come to reveal the meanings of courage, solidarity, generosity, and giving. Likewise, the ordeal of orphanhood, the trial of poverty, and the sting of hunger have always been fundamental motivators in refining talents, sharpening resolve, instilling the values of diligence, the spirit of resilience, and the principles of perseverance. This makes natural evil bad from one perspective, but good from many others. And this is also affirmed by the universal laws and cosmic principles that God Almighty has created. The earthquake that destroys cities relieves the pressure of the earth and paves the way for life on its surface. And the volcano that burns everything green and dry brings forth with it hidden treasures of minerals and precious stones. And the thunder that strikes some people fatally is used by plants, which benefit from its light to obtain nitric oxide. Thus, you will not find a universal law except that its evil is met with a greater good.